Hello, hello, hello. We are back this week on the Got Value podcast. I know you guys have been enjoying these conversations because I've been getting the DMs, the messages, and I am so thankful and honestly grateful that you have decided to join me in this soul goal work, because just achieving and accomplishing goals and tasks is not enough if you are not also including your spirit and your soul into the process. So I have a phenomenal person here with me today. It's so funny because we talked for like 20 minutes before we started recording, and we didn't even realize, like, oh wait, we're not recording. Because the
conversation had good stuff, right?
It was really good stuff. That is just how good the conversation is. You ladies and men are in for such a good, refreshing experience today. So Kristina, again, we've been talking, but knowing who you are and being confident in whomever that is, it truly does inform your choices. And I always like to begin every single episode asking, who do you say you are?
I seriously love this question. First of all, thank you for having me on your show. It's such an honor to have been handpicked by you, actually.
Yes.
I don't know how you found me and where you found me, but what you did in your initial communication with me was like, I gotta answer this lady. She's cool. So first of all, I love this question, and the way you worded it is so different from the way people ask their initial question, which is tell me something about yourself, or just something regular. So I've been doing some thinking, and naturally there's a lot of different sides to people, I think, based on their circumstances and perhaps even based on who they were, or maybe who they think they want to be. And we all get kind of muddled up into all this kind of, this is who I am, but really, is it who you are?
Yeah.
So a philosophical start. So I've been doing a lot of thinking about this question in general, and also for our show today. And really something that really has been constant about me is my love for adventure, and my love for travel, my love for bonding with people, creating true, deep, authentic connections and long-lasting connections. I grew up in Libya. I was there when I was 5 years old. And so I've lived in Libya, I've lived in Greece, I've lived in Malta, I've been in Dubai for the last 13 years. And the type of people, cultures that I've surrounded myself with have made me a very open-minded person. I consider myself a citizen of the world. Sometimes my friends make fun of me when I say that, so it's going to be funny when they watch this. The citizen of the world. But it's something that really has been with me since a child, and I think will remain with me. I love learning. I love creativity. I love love. So I'm a very positive person, very optimistic person. But having said that, obviously I go through an array of emotions every day. It's a rainbow, but you know what? It's all good, because all emotions are valid, and I think all emotions are necessary, and it's important to acknowledge them and welcome them and deal with them.
Absolutely. And it's so funny, when you were speaking, I was like, oh my gosh, you are my spirit, my opposite spirit. Actually more like similar spirit, because I too call myself an adventurer. Like, I'm like you. When I travel, I don't want to just sit in the hotel. I want to go do all the things. I've got plans. I want to go to the museum. Like, one of my last trips, I guess a few trips ago, was to Cabo, and we went whale watching on jet skis. I didn't even know that was possible. I had no clue that was insane. Like, you have this little teeny jet ski right here, and then like 400, maybe like 1,000 feet in front of you, there's this massive whale who's lifting out of the water, and you're just looking at it and you're like, this is magnificent. Like, it takes your breath away. And even though it's not loud, but it feels like it's kind of like you're in a bubble all by yourself because it's so heavy, if that makes sense. And not heavy in a bad way, but it's just, it's fascinating.
Majestic, I think.
Majestic. That is definitely the word. It's definitely majestic. And so I like the adventures. Who has the yacht or the boat or the catamaran? Where are we going? What are we sailing to see? But I feel like knowing who you are, it helps you to define, the type of life that you want to live, right? Because I think too that this is one of the things that many people or many leaders don't always do is how do you define who you are? And then when it is time to change, how do you do that? And I know this is like coming from left field, but this question I really want to ask you, because they're having a zest for life is something that everyone hasn't figured out how to tap into.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you have a zest for life. So how did you get clear? Yeah, literally. I've played with tigers too. It's a thing. But how did you find that? Yeah, how did you get here? What was that like?
I think a lot of experimentation, a lot of listening to myself, and a lot of introspect, and really finding out what gives me joy and how that helps me bring joy to others as well.
Yeah.
I think that's how I got here. And obviously, when you go back into psychology or even biology, when you're thinking about your DNA and what type of people your ancestors were. For example, I use this a lot because it's something that struck me a few years ago. I think it was in 2014. As I was preparing to speak at a conference, I wanted to talk a little bit about myself before I began to talk about rewards and recognition, which is what the topic was about.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I have a lot of my grandmother in me. A lot. I have a lot of my father in me. I have a lot of my grandfather in me. And most recently, in the last couple of years, I've started seeing some of my mother in me too. So I think our DNA and our upbringing and our environment obviously also helps to get us to where we are now. And I hope that answers the question as to how did you get here?
It does. And you said it in the first piece is figuring out what brings you joy.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation because I recently started dating again. And so I was having a conversation with a potential suitor, and
I love that word. He's a suitor.
A suitor, I like to date well. And I was having a conversation and I asked him, I'm like, well, what brings you joy? What are you excited about? And don't get me wrong, he's uber successful. I mean, really, really successful, has done some really amazing, great things when it comes to what he's done professionally and in the world of work. But he could not tell me what brought him joy outside of what he did. And so for me, and I know this may sound, I guess, kind of mean, but for me, it was a bit of a red flag because it meant that if you haven't figured out what brings you joy, that means in our connection, I'll always have to work twice as hard because you don't know what brings you joy. So I'll have to help you figure that out. And that can be a little labor intensive, especially if you're not willing to discover what that is. Because yes, we do work the majority of our able-bodied lives for many of us, but what happens to when we incorporate joy in that, or when we incorporate fun in that? Do you know how you empower your team members and the people who work for you when they realize they're working with someone who has anchored themselves in joy? It's a game changer.
Yeah, I love hearing that. And, we've had, in my previous work experience, we've had many different leaders. I worked in Atlantis for 13 years, and there's a particular woman that really sticks out, and she's actually American. Her name is Amanda. And she is, for me, the epitome of joy and fun and infectious joy and fun and happiness. And you know, her reputation, because she also worked in the Bahamas, her reputation in the Bahamas was the same. You know, it's not like she adapted or changed according to the environment, but it's just everyone who worked with her really, really, really had fun. And I started working there before she came, but I've always wanted to adapt my leadership in a way that, you know, we spend between 8 and 14 hours at work, you know, depending on the companies, on our roles, depending on how much we love our jobs as well.
Yes.
But
you give more when you like it, right? I will
Absolutely.
give you so much more if I like working for it and with you. If I don't, I'm going to give you the bare minimum. I'm going to do just enough to get by, and you will never get the best of me because I don't like it.
Yeah, and I think that's with a lot of people, and I've kind of been fortunate in my life that I've been in these kind of situations for a very short time. So as soon as I begin to feel like I'm switching off, or I'm not having fun, or I'm not creating fun for others and joy and happiness and positivity, it's just, you know, the red light, and then I move on. But yeah, so I was speaking about Amanda, and she's someone who really, really stands out as a leader to me, and I've always admired her, and I've always looked up to her, and I've wanted to make sure that whatever I've done within my team, and what I continue to do at work, and, you know, in my personal life as well, is always fun. Of course, we have to be realistic. It's not always about that. But it is a driving force for me. It is. You know, as a young kid, I was adventurous, and I always went out to play, and we always had huge groups of people, and we had, you know, hide and seek and all kinds of games, but it was always about adventure. And, you know, I read the Famous Five, and the Nancy Drew, and the Hardy Boys, and all these books, and I think those, and Tom Sawyer, and I think those also influenced me in a way.
It had you like, okay, if they can do adventures, I can too.
Yeah,
Let's try.
I even had my little kind of bag prepared in case I got kidnapped, and crazy stuff. You know, I had like little mini survival things inside that bag. It was just, what were you thinking, Kristina? Yeah.
It's okay. You were thinking about all the adventures that you were going to go on, and, you know, you didn't get kidnapped, so all's well that ends well.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Thank goodness. But you said in there a piece where you were like, when you're starting to click off, to know what that looks like and feels like for you, I think is of utmost importance. And with like the great resignation and so many like executives, leaders, and team members, with them becoming disengaged and clicking off, you know, as you say, which I really, really like, they're starting to look for organizations where they have some sense of belonging, where they feel like they do belong. And so what strategies and ways do you suggest that leaders can use to actually like engage their team members and their employees in order to build like a better team or even work culture?
Culture. Look, I think it's important, instead of looking at placing the onus only on the leaders, which I think is of big importance, I think it's also essential to consider, what does the recruitment team do? And if they're attracting, recruiting, and retaining people, colleagues, that have the same or belief in the same core values, the same mission. They believe in the vision. They see the vision. They want to work towards it. They believe in the employee value proposition. I'm throwing in a few HR terms here because I think it's essential for companies to realize that if they don't have a vision which is shared and lived every day by everyone authentically, then it's very hard to fit into a company and to realize even why you're not fitting in. So it's important, first of all, to establish your vision, mission, core values when you're attracting and hiring, are you hiring for the right fit? Will they fit the organization's culture? If they don't fit, then what could they bring to the culture that will change it in a positive way, or possibly even in a disruptive way, but disruptively positive? And also something else that's worth considering and thinking about is certain professions. No, let's backtrack. So sometimes a person's role could be a job. Sometimes that could be a career. And sometimes, if you're lucky, it could be a calling. So a lot of people, and I think it's, I don't have percentages, but I know it's probably more rather than less in terms of, if you look at it as a pie of 3, a lot of people are in jobs. Some are in careers. They see how the job can evolve into a career and how they're building their career through that. And then the lucky ones, the really fortunate ones, are in it because it's a calling for them. So potentially a nurse could be in a role where that is a calling for her or him. So
I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah, so if you're working in a place where the culture is not amazing, but your role is a calling for you, then you're more inclined to be engaged with what you're doing instead of who you're surrounded by and with. But having said that, that is, the lucky or the fortunate few are in a place where things are where their role is a calling for them, because it often takes a lot of experimentation, a lot of self-analysis, I think, to really understand what is this calling for you. And I think sadly most people, or the majority of the people, don't even understand what their calling is. So when you're looking at workplace culture, when you're looking at employee engagement, you naturally will not have everyone working with you, considering that job is their calling or even their career. So for those, with the majority for which their role is their job, how do you engage them, and how do you build that culture of sustainability, of the sense of belonging? I think the word sense of belonging started coming out, or the phrase sense of belonging. It started becoming very popular in the last couple of years. Maybe about a year or two before the pandemic. But I think with the pandemic, that's been emphasized because we've had a long time to think and et cetera, et cetera. But in terms of sense of belonging and really feeling like you matter and that you're adding value, these are things that we've been searching for since way before COVID. And, from the 60s and from the 1600s and, you name it. So I think if you're creating a culture where your colleagues feel that what they do really makes a positive impact and really makes a difference in people's lives, this is the type of culture that you want to be building. And that happens through internal communication. It happens through really good communication channels. And it happens through exploring the employee journey and the different touch points that create the employee journey. And obviously through really good leadership and investing in training your leadership, because I think sometimes it's over talked about, but it's underdone, if that's a word.
Wow. I think it is a word. If not, that's okay. How we create new words is by creating the new word. But no, that whole piece, I was getting goosebumps because I had never heard it put in that framework before, where some people are working a job, some people this is their career, and some people this is their calling. And if you understand that trifecta, then you can ensure that if it's folks who are just working a job, they're going to need a little bit more support in order to keep them engaged, because it's not something that they see as a forever thing anyway. And so how do you get the best out of them when it comes to, okay, this is someone who does not see this as something that's forever? And so I've always believed that in order to get the best out of anyone is you lead with empathy. But I do understand that empathy isn't something, and emotional intelligence isn't something that every leader has, even though they are a leader.
No.
And so, what are some ways in which leaders and honestly team members, because you have to too sometimes manage up, how can, we all use empathy to empower ourselves in either the teams that we're leading or the teams that we're on?
Well, first of all, I think it's crucial to make sure that people understand the difference between empathy and sympathy,
Oof,
right?
yeah.
Sympathy is really understanding it from your point of view and sympathizing with the person. But empathy is really putting yourself in the person's shoe and understanding the issue from their point of view,
Mm-hmm.
unselfishly. So I think when it comes to leading with empathy and having a little bit more developed emotional intelligence, it's important to train. And it's important to constantly evaluate and have those conversations. I think if we foster really good three-way communication, and create those instances where leaders and team members and assistant managers and team leaders all meet, whether it's in a group or in a smaller group or in a big party or event. But if you foster instances of good three-way communication that build trust and understanding, and then you also use positive psychology interventions where you could focus on things like resilience or understanding people in general. I think that's the foundation of building empathy, I think, for me.
And you said three-way communication. So for those who don't know what three-way communication, what is that?
So I think most of us are used to listening or hearing that communication is two-way, right? It's top down or bottom up, but communication is also, if you're looking at internal communication within a company, is the leaders speaking to the colleagues? Is the colleagues speaking back to the leaders? There's that two-way communication, but there's also the horizontal communication. Do we as leaders, do we as managers, do we as companies and culture builders, do we foster a three-way communication and encourage communication to happen between the colleagues, whatever level they're at? That is something that is very dear to my heart. Three-way communication and encouraging people to talk and to be open and honest and have that psychological safety in their roles.
That is especially the safety piece, because everyone, like you and I can read the same thing and then come to a totally different understanding based on what we've read. But if you foster communication, horizontally and across, the lines, then I'm able to understand more. Even if I don't necessarily agree, I'm still able to understand more about what you mean, what your beliefs are, how you interpret and understand things. So then when I need to communicate with you, I'm able to frame it in a way that my actual communication does that, like it actually comes across. You understand what I'm trying to say because I've spent enough time speaking with you, understanding, sometimes even too what your biases are, how you comprehend, then I'm able to get the most out of our working relationship because I get you on a level that's not just I waved hi to you in the hallway, being cordial as we walked by.
I think you said it very eloquently. I think that is when you're leading with empathy and when you're leading with kindness, I'm not going to be very inclusive about what I say, but I think when you lead with empathy and kindness, a lot of the things that are done by the company, for example, I'm going to take, something that I think most companies went through last year, which is redundancies and putting people on furlough. But if it's done, communicated, executed in a way that is with empathy and with kindness and with care and with the possibility of joining or rejoining the company once business gets back to normal, I think this is what a lot of companies missed. And I was listening to the radio the other day, and I think this is something that kind of, became very popular last week. And I forget the name of the gentleman, but he was a CEO who infamously fired 600 people on a Zoom call. And I think
900.
900. There you go.
900.
I mean, it's like it's really,
It's thoughtless.
Was there a gram of empathy in there?
Not a gram. And I've been laid off twice in my career. And what I did that I really, really respected about the organizations that laid me off is they hired a team of people because it was a mass layoff. So they hired a team of people who was responsible for actually going to each person. They presented us with our package. They let us know what the next steps would be. And I get it that, okay, there's a pandemic. You can't go to everyone, but there is a way to do it so that it's in smaller groups, in segments, where you talk and walk through what this means, why we're doing it. It's being a human. Like, it literally is just because you're a leader, it doesn't mean that
you're leading.
Yeah, like they're not synonymous. Being a leader is not synonymous with leading. It's just really, really not. It is a conscious choice, kind of like allyship. It's a verb. You're going to have to do something. Love, I don't consider love a noun. I consider it a verb. There's some things that have to be done so that I can understand, believe, and accept the fact that based on your actions, yes, this is what love is. It resonates with me. And there's always a way to do it. Like, really and truly, there's a way to do everything. But then I wonder too, because when we were speaking earlier, we were talking about, finding joy, tapping into it, discovering it, and then allowing it to inform your choices. But then how do you define, because so many have a super clear definition of what success is professionally. They're clear on it, what it looks like, what it feels like, how much money it is. But then we sometimes totally negate the fact that we have personal lives. And so what do you define as personal and your professional success? Like, what's the professional success look like for you? But then what's personal success defined as for you?
I think, it's almost like a marriage, and it's a symbiotic relationship between personal and professional success, because I think if you're personally unsuccessful, it's very difficult to be professionally successful. And I know this from experience. I'm not just blabbing on. And vice versa, right? If you're professionally unsuccessful, for lack of a better word, then that also plays on your personal life as well. So, when people talk about work-life balance and they talk about the fact that it's work and it's life and let's balance them, it's actually work-life integration, because work is part of life. So when you look at personal success and professional success, I also believe that those two are together. They go hand in hand. So it takes me back to something that I previously spoke about, which is, positivity and optimism. My tagline, which is on a lot of my social media channels, is creating joy and positivity and happiness in people's personal as well as their work life. So I think, in airplanes, when they say you got to wear your oxygen mask first and help yourself before you help others, it's obvious that we have to help ourselves first. And whatever brings me joy and happiness and positivity is something that will help me regurgitate that back to others.
I love the fact that you use the term regurgitate.
I don't even know if it makes sense in this situation,
no,
but yeah,
it does, because what comes in must go out. And so if I am ingesting goodness and positivity, and I get it, there are people who are like, oh, well, that it's not possible with all the things that are happening to, be happy and joyful and all the things. And I'm like, no, you can acknowledge that we are in extremely complex times. And also you can decide that in spite of, or even because of the extremely complex times, I am going to tap into every ounce of joy I can possibly find, and I am going to squeeze the life into joy and into myself. I don't want to just have a mediocre experience. I don't want to be somewhat happy. I don't want to be, oh well, I'm just making it. No, I only have this one life that I'm going to remember in this lifetime. I want to experience it in its full glory because I know it's possible because I've seen it. And so I want to know, what does that look like for me to tap into that? And as you were saying, if a leader can do that with working with Amanda, like you were saying, it was infectious,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely. So you got me thinking as you were speaking, because obviously it's not positive. It's not possible to always be happy and
of
always
course,
be joyful.
of
And
course.
there's also people that are more predisposed to negativity rather than positivity. So when you, and I've experienced that myself with
Me
people
too.
around me, and it's very difficult to influence them, or to influence them in a lasting and kind of sustainable way. So what do you do for those kind of people, and how do you help them? Sometimes you can't.
Yeah,
And
you
sad
gotta be
truth is
okay with
that as close as they could be your daughter, or they could be your parent or your partner.
that.
It's
Yeah,
very difficult. So really the best way that you can help is to be there for them, and to be happy and joyful, and hopefully that rubs off, and hopefully your energy kind of rubs off on them too.
yes, it's so funny that you just said that. So I recently, like, blew up my life a little bit. When I closed down my business, I had been in business for 8 years when I closed it down, and my mother was having some health issues at the time, and I decided I was going to move back, home with her. I'm like, oh, this is a great opportunity. Not that she was sick, but I said the timing. I'm not gonna lie, the timing was aligned with, okay, I want to close down this business. Whenever you're shifting or transitioning, you do need additional support. And I'm like, okay, it'd be great. I reduce all of my economic expenses, and then I'm able to help her as well. The problem is trying to help people in the ways that you feel they need help, doesn't always align.
No.
And I had to realize that, my mother has been how she's been for over 60 years. Even if in my mind, and also based on the statistics, that the choices that she's making won't assist her in living her best, most full, and healthy life. It is her choice. She gets to choose. And no matter how I feel about it, I cannot change who and how she is, no matter how much I think it's needed.
You
Being
said
who
it.
I am.
You said it, point on, spot on.
Like there's no changing her, and there's no changing some people, and that's okay. I love her, she still loves me. We're still, here, but we just know, maybe living together will never ever work again. um, but I love you as you are. I love me as I am. And my hope is that one day you will make choices, and she will make choices that align better with um, the type of healthy lifestyle she says she wants. And if not, that's okay too, because we all get to choose.
Yeah.
We all get to choose, and that's just what it is. But now, in choosing too, I always wonder, in the world of work, there's been a lot of conversation about like imposter syndrome and all this. And I don't necessarily believe in imposter syndrome all the way. I know it's very strange. People are like, what? You're a Black woman and you don't believe in imposter syndrome? No, not all the way. But I do believe that sometimes you have professional insecurity, how you are sure of yourself in one lane, but because this might be something that's new, you're not as sure. And if you don't have certain supports in place, you become even more insecure. So, do you believe that professional insecurity is a thing? And if so, have you ever dealt with it? and how have you dealt with it? And then have you seen it in others? And what steps have you taken to help them like manage it? And I know that's like a super full question.
I love that question. I think, you know, when you think about professional insecurities, I'd like to take this question from two different directions, first of all. When it comes to professional insecurities, the sad truth is that there are people out there who address these professional insecurities in a very unhealthy way, and they manifest them in a very unhealthy way, which turns into workplace psychopaths. And they turn their insecurities into other people's weaknesses. So because they feel insecure with what they're doing, and they might know it or they might not even realize it, they start attacking others, and they really become workplace psychopaths. So I think this is one extreme way. It does exist though, because I've experienced it.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, because now I know it. But the other kind of insecurity is obviously the imposter syndrome. And I've also experienced that with a colleague of mine who is an amazing woman, but she, for about 3 to 5 months, did feel that sense of probably a low self-esteem, unable to do the job. And she was doing a phenomenal job, and no matter how much I praised her, or how much other people praised her, that wasn't going to go away. So I think when it comes to helping people with imposter syndrome or workplace insecurities, if you want to call it, it's important to be patient. You hopefully hired them yourself, or you trust the person who hired them for you. But you hired them for a reason. You saw something there, and you continue to see that. And it's important to give them that sense of security from your side, with praising and rewards and recognition, and when it's done in the right way, in the right time, in the right manner, then it becomes a little bit more credible for them, instead of saying it once in a week, or once a month, or once every quarter. Hey, you're doing a great job. Yeah, but what is it? So it brings me back to the principle of rewarding and recognizing, which is so essential. And how important it is to recognize that there are people who feel insecure. I have myself been through such a phase in my past life, and it's debilitating. And it's I'm a person with very high self-confidence, and I think I was always like that, even as a child. So experiencing a role or a job, whatever it is, where you feel like you totally don't know what you're doing, and you're not very good at that, when others believe in you, it's interesting. It's an interesting place to be, and it took a lot of self-analysis and positive self-speaking and thoughts to get me back on track to where I knew I was. But it just, something throws you off. And you could be right. You could be in a completely different job and environment where you maybe haven't done it before, and that is valid. But you can also be in the same role, doing the exact same stuff, but just in a different company. And then you wonder, but why? I did that in my previous job like a month ago.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of love, a lot of empathy, a lot of kindness, a lot of patience, trust. Again, that two-way communication between the leader and the person experiencing it. And let's not forget the fact that a lot of times we're even afraid to admit that. We're embarrassed. Why would you want to tell someone that you feel like, I'm doing a really rubbish job here? I don't know what I'm doing. So how do you recognize that?
Yeah, and it's definitely, and you said it, it's giving yourself grace. Like, I am in something that is new for me. This is new. I am not my most comfortable. So because I'm not comfortable, I'm already putting up kind of like defenders. Like, as soon as you get a cold, your body goes into attack.
Yeah, my white blood cells. Full mode.
Yes, they are like, no, we will attack this foreign invader. If you think about it, that's what happens when you start to feel insecure about your abilities. It's like your white blood cells start to attack your very ability to actually get it done, but it attacks your mindset thinking you can't. So you won't even try sometimes, or you won't try with the same fervor that you would if you were sure that, okay, this I can learn or this I can do. Kind of like me with coding. I won't even attack it. I'm pretty sure I can learn it, but my mindset has, it literally is like,
I
a
don't want to.
exactly. It's like a shield, like, we don't want to do this. So we're not.
Power Rangers.
Go Power Rangers. So it doesn't allow me to. My own mind won't allow me to. And so for me, a lot of times how I've dealt with professional insecurity is I ask myself, why is it that you maybe don't want to or feel you cannot learn this? Everything happens in segments, right? Before I learned to walk, I had to learn to crawl. So this is another situation like that. I just need to learn to crawl first, then I can learn to pull myself up and stand up, then I can learn to stand without support, then walk, then run, then sprint. And so giving yourself grace through each of those, it helps with the insecurity, because you're like, well, I'm confident in my ability to get this eventually. Eventually I'll get it, especially if I'm determined to get it. Kind of like with Will
You
Smith.
gotta get it.
I gotta get it. If I want to keep this particular opportunity, I gotta get it. It's kind of like with Will Smith. He was like, it's hard to be the person, and this is his quote, not mine, but he says, it's hard to be the person who won't give up. He's like, either I will win or I will die. Now, we don't have to go so morbid, but it's, if you commit to, and Jay-Z said the same thing, and he is for me, one of my favorite philosophers. And it's not, it's only because I really admire what he did to change his outcome, in terms of, he knew he wasn't doing something that was right. And so he said, well, what does it look like to do something that is right, that is better? What does that look like? And his quote is, the genius thing we did is we never gave up. Like, he just kept going, kept staying in the game. And so for me, as you are growing, there are things that because you've worked in a myriad of roles. And so there are things that you learn and that you do. But then you realize, as you're working in certain roles, just like with Amanda, how she was a leader, you started to frame, your leadership style around, hey, this is really effective and I like it. I'm going to take some of these jewels on and use them in executing, or in leading my teams. So how has what you needed framed how you've built and advanced your own career?
I love this question too. I really want to go back to the element of fun and joy, and bringing that for myself and for others. I think it's so crucial. And maybe I'm saying it from a place of, maybe I'm fortunate to have been doing what I've been doing and what I am doing. Because maybe not everyone can have fun at work, and maybe not everyone wants to have fun at work. But for me, it's really about that. It's for having and playing and creating. I love create. I'm very creative, so I love creating. Being able to leave my mark and leave my brand, and kind of build something that I envisaged is something that deeply motivates me. And when it comes to working as a team, giving people the ability to use their strengths, I think I love the strengths-based approach, and working from a place of strength and focusing on that, as opposed to dealing or working on or improving your weaknesses. I think all of us have so many strengths that we could really use them and focus on honing them. So working in a team or working on my own, but really having that element of fun and happiness in my job, in my everyday life, and also using my strengths and enabling people to use their strengths as well.
I love all of that, especially the focus on your strengths. Like, what are you good at? Kind of like in rugby, right? How you win the game is they take the strengths of each team member, put them in the position for what their greatest strengths are. And it's like, okay, and go. Because with each person focusing on what they're best at, you don't have people going in each other's lane, because no, I'm clear that this is my role. This is how I, bring value to the team. This is what I'm doing. And this is how it supports what we all need. I love that. I love that. And this conversation has been so good. I know we have definitely gone over a little bit.
Have we? I haven't noticed.
It's because this has been so good. But I do have one final, question that I wanted to ask you, and it's about like your life's mission. I'm a firm believer in, we are the author of our own stories. We get to define it, write it, tear some chapters out, or erase some things if it doesn't work for us. But if you had to sum up like your life's mission in one sentence, and I know that is hard as ever, but what would it be? Like, what would that be?
Yeah, so that would be creating instances of joy, positivity, and happiness for people and for myself.
Listen, okay, drop the mic. That was easy. I love it. I love it. So this has been, like I said, for me, just a phenomenal way to start my own day. But where can we stay connected with you? I actually found you from your YouTube videos. If you're wondering, I know you were wondering before, and I really like how people and heart-centered you were. Those are the type of leaders that I gravitate to, because again, you can change the entire direction of someone's life if you are not only an empathetic leader, but if you just care about people. You can change things in their lives, and then their life touches another life, and that life touches another. So it literally is that domino effect. And when I was watching your videos, I was like, oh, I must talk to her. We have to be friends. She doesn't know it yet, but we have to be friends.
I totally agree with you. We have to be friends.
We have to. We must. And I've never been to Malta, but it's been on my bucket list for 7 years. So I'm going to.
I've been there. Yeah, I lived there for 11 years. Amazing place. So much history and culture, and just, it's a great place to be. So if you're willing, we can make a trip there together.
Not if, when. We've already decided. We are friends. Okay.
I'm coming to New York next year.
Okay, and I will make sure that I plan a really, really great experience for us. It's going to be great. I can't wait. So where can everyone else? So where can with us? Yes, where can we stay connected? Because I'm going to stay connected with you, because we're going to travel to New York and Malta together. But where can everyone else stay connected?
They can just follow us on YouTube. I think for me, the best way to stay professionally connected with someone is through LinkedIn, and my LinkedIn is Kristina Vaneva. That's it. Drop mic. I use LinkedIn very, very often. Okay. Let's say not obsessively, but on a daily basis. And I'm not one of those people that ignores. Awesome. This is I think very important, because if someone has taken a minute to reach out to you, whatever it's for, whether it's for a job, or they're looking for a job, or they want to advertise something to you, just answer back, whatever it is, even
if it's a no. Yeah. I told someone the other day, because he had messaged me, I think like 3 times back to back, and I finally got a chance to read it. And I was like, hey, this sounds great, but no, thank you. Just a simple respond,
Yeah. And LinkedIn makes it easy for you. They even do the sentence for you.
Exactly. They have the prompt. You just click whichever one you want that works and move
Yeah,
on.
no excuse. Yeah,
None.
my YouTube channel as well. I've kind of neglected it in the last 1 year because I've been working on a book. I'm working on a book, yay! And the topic is the book is going to be called Beyond Employee Engagement. And the topic is the importance of the employee experience on the customer experience. So I'm taking the different touch points of the employee journey and looking at how HR and also leaders can influence that employee experience and the different touch points. So I'm looking to revive my channel. So it would actually be great if we can, collaborate and I can also share this video through my channel, which is Kristina.
Yes.
Very simple.
I love
And
it.
yeah.
Okay, well, it's a yes from me. So now everyone has heard I've said yes. So it'll be that's my accountability. I have said yes on this good recorded podcast. But no, I am so thankful for you. Folks can stay connected with me at Alechia Reese everywhere. I've made it super simple. It's literally Alechia Reese. And then also you can join gotvaluenation.com. It is our free community where we are doing all the things focused on not only defining and outlining what professional success is and looks like, but truly tapping into what personal success is, because being a professional success and a personal mess is absolutely no way to live. So stay connected with the Got Value podcast, and I will see you next week. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on the Got Value podcast. Remember, there is true value in purpose, and the greatest discovery of your life will be exactly what yours is. Stay connected with us at gotvaluenation.com.